Hong Kong bracing itself for more chaos today as protesters gathered for a petition on Hong Kong human rights and democracy in Chater Garden. They then marched off to the U.S. Consulate General. Protesters want the U.S. Congress to bring into force the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act. Currently a bill, it would reaffirm U.S. commitment to democracy, human rights and the rule of law in the face of Beijing's crackdown. Now, those are the words of the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Let's go for an update now with our correspondent, Afifa Arifin. She is outside the U.S. Consulate General in Hong Kong. Afifa, how is that situation developing?
That's right, Jill. This rally where I'm at is really a rally calling for international support, in particular the support from the United States. Now, we have seen the U.S. flag being waved by small groups of protesters, and many of the rallies and protests that we have seen over the last 14 weekends here in Hong Kong. But today, their call for support from the U.S. is much stronger. Thousands of people were gathered at Chater Garden after noon today, and they slowly made their way here to the Consulate General of the U.S. We see that there are dozens of riot police that are blocking the junction or the roads leading to the entrance of this compound, but protesters are just skirting by it, going on the left side of the compound along Garden Road. We've been here since about 2 p.m. and we have seen a steady stream of people here waving the U.S. flag, singing the Star-Spangled Banner and chanting a lot of the slogans, protest slogans that we have become very familiar with. Now, the aim of this rally is to petition for U.S. lawmakers to pass the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act when Congress sits tomorrow on the 9th of September. Now, this act will really allow the U.S. Senate to provide annual reports to assess the status of democracy, human rights and autonomy in Hong Kong. This is very much in line with the agreement that was made between the U.S. and Hong Kong back in 1992, which allows Hong Kong special concessions or treatment from the U.S. so long as they remain sufficiently autonomous. It also means that the U.S. government can punish individuals who they see have suppressed the basic freedoms of rights in Hong Kong by freezing their assets based in the U.S. Now, this bill must be passed by both houses before in the U.S. before it can become law. And U.S. lawmakers across the political spectrum have advocated for it, including, as you mentioned, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer. U.S. President Donald Trump, however, hasn't commented much about this issue. His last remarks came sometime last month, where all he said was that he hopes China will handle the situation humanely. But he also reiterated that Hong Kong is part of China. Now, the Chinese government, of course, are unhappy with what they've accused the U.S. Politicians of interfering in their domestic affairs. They cited this human rights bill as an example of it. On Thursday, a day after Chief Executive Carrie Lam announced that she would fully withdraw the controversial extradition bill, the Chinese Foreign Ministry requested for the U.S. lawmakers to put a complete halt to the passing of this bill in Congress. So we'll really have to see just how this rally later plays out, whether the thousands of people on the street can really drum up enough support for the U.S. lawmakers to pass this bill in Congress tomorrow.
Yeah, Afifa, just so many things that bring us to a crossroads of sorts, because we saw the stress test on the airport not succeed yesterday, yet they are out in force and reaching out to the U.S. Consulate General. What does this tell us about the mindset of the protesters now?
Well, you know, this weekend is the first weekend since Chief Executive Carrie Lam made her latest peace offering, which is the withdrawal of the controversial extradition bill, as well as call to have an open dialogue with various segments of society. We know that the weekends are when, you know, there are large numbers of people who come to protest. It's also when we've seen some of the most violent confrontations and standoffs between the police and the protesters. So what analysts are saying is that this weekend is really a litmus test to really gauge the sentiment of the people in Hong Kong to see whether they truly accept Carrie Lam's latest olive branch. But clearly the answer is no. Protesters are having none of it, as can be seen from the turnout here today that's calling for international interference into Hong Kong's political unrest, and also from the violent confrontations that we have seen both on Friday and the whole of Saturday, which, as you've said before, resulted in many people being injured as well. So the protesters are very clear. They say that they want all 5 of their demands to be met and nothing less. This includes forming an independent panel to look into police conduct. Many of the protesters are saying there is police brutality and many unlawful arrests that have been made. So the fire that the protesters have to maintain this momentum of this political rebellion is still burning very strongly, and it remains to be seen just when both sides can come to a compromise, even as they both seek to reduce tensions.